Hi guys, what is going on, and welcome back to another video on Conqueror's Blade. So, today, fire archers, or incendiary archers, depending on whatever you want to call them. These guys, they used to be called fire archers back when the game first launched into open beta, then they changed the name to incendiary archers for whatever reason. So that's why I tend to call them fire archers, because I've got that stuck in my head. Although, interestingly, I noticed actually when I elited them, they went back to, instead of elite incendiary archers, they went to elite fire archers, which I suspect is a relic that someone forgot to change when they changed the naming of them. So yeah, kind of an interesting archer unit. One that I really should have had unlocked 6 months ago, and don't know why I never got round to them. At the time when open beta released, I really got into my prefecture archers, so I kind of neglected these guys, and I've just never really got around to playing them. So I thought, considering they're maxed out at level 16, so they're quite an easy one to grind out. You know, only a 3-star unit. I thought, well, let's just stick the time and get these guys leveled up. Have a little bit of a play with them. Thought they were going to be fairly enjoyable, and yeah, all in all, I've not been disappointed. Now, obviously, I think their biggest issue is the fact that they're going to get compared to Namkhan archers. And these guys are good, but I don't think you could necessarily call them better than Namkhan archers. I think if you did, that would be a larger burden than they can reasonably be expected to bear. Because Namkhans really are, and still are, the #1 archer unit at sort of mid-tier. And I think realistically you kind of have to take that out of the equation in looking at any other unit, because otherwise you're always just going to play Namkhans for the rest of your life. These do have a few areas, though, where they actually exceed Namkhans. Most specifically, it's the fire damage. Oops, if I click the right button, still can't do it. They get Flaming Arrow. And they get, all units fire Flaming Arrows. Unlike the Rat and Marksman, it's not like a percentage chance that they fire a Flaming Arrow. Once you activate Flaming Arrow, everyone fires Flaming Arrow. And yeah, you actually get a few veterancy upgrades along the way. Plus 200 points of fire damage. I think that's the only one that affects the fire. Is there an increased duration? Actually isn't, so you're just getting that plus 200 to the fire damage. But it means when you've got fire arrow on, everything you hit burns. Now, it's obviously very nice against certain units. Obviously, pretty much everything that's low tier. You know, if you get a unit of Iron Caps, Pipe Militia, any sort of pikemen like that, they burn beautifully. And it basically means this unit can cut them down, even at fairly close range, because the damage you get from burning is so high, combined with the fact that most models, when they set on fire, they stop running at you and just stand around in a bit of panic, because, well, I guess understandably, they're on fire. So that kind of affects them quite a lot. But more effectively, they really counter things like Rattan Rangers, because these guys are not fireproof, so they burn quite nicely. I'm pretty sure Keshigs aren't fireproof as well. God, I can't find my way around these menus. No, so Keshigs are another example of a nice cavalry that will be more affected by a unit of fire archers than by, say, some Namkhans. You know, you hit these with a unit of fire archers. This is a tier 5 350 ship leadership unit, and they'll burn quite nicely. But once you get onto heavier, sort of higher tier units, I'm assuming these guys, yeah, they're fireproof. So they don't actually burn. They may take a little extra damage, but they don't actually set on fire and run around in a blind panic, because they're just in heavy armor. They're not going to burn, so it kind of makes sense. So that's kind of the main benefit of the fire archers. But this Flaming Arrow is on a 60-second cooldown, and on the stock tree, you know, it seems to run for maybe 6 to 8 seconds, something like that, maybe a little bit less, 5 to 7 seconds, something like that. But there is a couple of unit upgrades on the unit tree, just to briefly show you. Each level increases Archer's flame damage duration. As far as I can tell, that's activation by a further 3 seconds. You can get that up to 9 seconds, which is kind of nice. You can also get damage increase as well. I think this is less useful. I think the timing is actually the most useful one. I've just done 2 of the 3. Obviously, they get progressively more expensive each one you unlock. For 6,000 honour, it probably is worth the next one, but I'm not sure how much long term I'm going to play these guys. I'm not a massive archer player. I'm probably going to save my experience for something else, my honour for something else. So, yeah, all in all, I have quite enjoyed them. They are pretty fragile, 2200 hit points. All archers at this tier are pretty fragile. It doesn't take much for them to die. They go from 0 to 0 extremely fast. They do get pretty decent penetration for their tier. You know, 1180, not bad, almost 1200. Will deal with most mid-tier units armor-wise. And actually, their piercing damage at 1800 is really kind of quite high. In terms of doctrines, piercing damage, piercing AP. Don't ask why I've got a really high one on there. It's a long story. Slight mistake. Extra health. extra piercing, and a little bit of breakthrough doctrine since I had one and I didn't quite know who to put it on. So yeah, that's how I've found them so far. Anyway, talked enough. Let's hop into a battle, see how we get on, and see if we can burn some people with our fire archers. So we're loading onto Siege on Sun City. I've just been pushing through basically with my Forte Brachos, but units got quite badly damaged, only sort of half of them left, and I wanted to pull my fire archers out, kind of give them a go. So we've actually captured A, B and C already by this point, and kind of pushing on to the final flag. If you're wondering why it's very quiet, for some reason classic Evo fashion somehow screwed up recording even the game audio, so I don't know. I don't understand these computers. Anyway, we push through, and immediately quite a nice little section of target goes straight on with the fire arrows, and you see we start to burn everything quite nicely, pick up quite a lot of kills fairly quickly, pretty well butcher everything that comes up against it, because they're all fairly lightly armoured units, sort of equivalent tier to the archers, and everything like that burns quite nicely. And at close range, these fire archers can't really miss, and they actually have really a fairly decent rate of fire. So really nice opening to that. Quite pleased with that, cleared out that sort of back of the citadel. And then we're kind of pushing on, trying to flank around, trying to get positions to try and support the push on the main point, because we've only got this last flag we need to take now. Somehow I just didn't even think to look the other way as I came around this corner. Unfortunately, lose a chunk of the unit to these condottieri. But thankfully we have friendly support here, sort of with a bit of assistance from the fire archers, Hero and the other units. We kind of managed to cut them down, but yeah, a little bit of bad situation as well, awareness going on there really, because to walk around the corner and not even notice the enemy unit wasn't particularly great. So as we push around, we absolutely butcher these enemy units on the point. Look how many quickly the kills rack up, shooting into the back of that unit of shields. They basically critted every shot. It was hitting for like 3k or something like that. And as we clear up, we see a nice shot on a cluster of enemy archers. I just go straight on with fire. Let's just burn them all. And as you see, you absolutely cut them down. These guys excel in this sort of situation where there's a nice cluster of enemy lightly armoured ranged units. We even get a random hero kill in there as well. And they're just throwing those arrows in, really building up the kills kind of quickly. And that's just what they excel at. You know, if you start shooting them at Reapers or, you know, Imperial Spear Guard or something like that, or other heavily armoured units, they're really not going to perform very well because they don't have the penetration, the unit will be fireproof, and all in all it just really reduces their effectiveness. But against lightly armoured units or small clusters of units, they do work really quite well. They're not a massive hero killer, I don't find, but they still get hero kills. If a hero stands sort of in front of them too long, then you know it stands a reasonable chance of killing them, like that dual blades. But dual blades are relatively lightly armoured, so it kind of makes it a little bit easier for it. Just quite good at firing quickly. Fortunately, they run out of ammo there at the end. Kind of one of the limitations, even with the 20% ammo upgrade in the veterancy line, I still kind of find that they do run out of ammo fairly quickly, and it can be a little bit of a problem. But it really wasn't worth me at this stage going back to the supply point. It was easier for me just to sort of fight on and try and get this final point, and there we go, we managed to win the game. And they actually didn't do as well as my Forte Brachos, but we've got 2 hero kills, 79 unit kills, mostly against enemy ranged units, and I think that's where they excel more than anything else, in that sort of ranged counter situation. I think they do really quite well. That really sums up the bulk of my opinions on them. I think they're a nice unit for a mid-tier archer. I think they really are quite good fun to play. They have pretty decent penetration and pretty high base damage, and with that decent rate of fire, they are actually effective fire aside. Throw in a fire, it makes it one nice burning large clumps of enemy ranged units because they tend to die pretty quickly. But I think when you're added to that potential of occasionally hitting some tier 5 cav units and stuff like that, much higher tier units when they crop up, then it can really make them a very fun unit to play. Even if very satisfying, if not necessarily quite as effective as Namkhan's in kind of an all-round sort of situational unit. Certainly one that kind of well worth levelling up, particularly as they only max out at 16, they're not a too hard a unit to get hold of. Certainly one I'd kind of recommend people check out and kind of give them a little bit of a test. But anyway, that's all I've got for you today. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. If you have, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Subscribe to the channel for a little more Conqueror Blade content, and I shall see you all on the next video.